Antlers, assumptions, and artillery. Oh, god damn it, this whole planet is cursed. Bjorn notes as the aggressive-looking Horchka, not that the race of tusked bodybuilders ever look anything other than aggressive, not that he's seen at least. Oh yes, a great and terrible curse that'll fall on you if you don't fork over your coins, one of them says. It was a simple walk that Holly wanted. There was no big sign and nothing extravagant. Then, out of nowhere, the amount of people on the street went from a fair number to almost none. Bjorn mentally cursed himself for not immediately getting suspicious. It was obvious in retrospect. It also meant several things. There's enough of them to scare of pedestrians from both sides, and they're organized enough to pull this off. It's at least a mildly competent gang, one that's about to bring knives and baseball bats to a shootout and have no damn idea. Or we can all act like reasonable adults and go our separate ways. I'm armed and willing to kill to get you to back off. Bjorn remarks as he keeps himself between the three Horchka that seem to be in charge and Holly. More of the large tusked women are gathering around. There are 8 he can see, meaning it's likely going up to 30. He covertly activates the emergency beacon on his communicator. He doesn't like being outnumbered, much less surrounded. Adults? Maybe you've got some time under you, little man, but you're just a man, a pampered little brat that never had to worry. The leader of the gang states, and Bjorn barely resists just blowing her away from that one. Never had to worry. Maybe the local men are like that, but he will never forget the training he undertook. Pushing till he bled, pushing to the edge of insanity, and then just barely pulled back. Men broke bones on those training fields. There were likely still men in the hospital to this day from the sheer strain the training put on them in both body and mind. 10-hour days filled with forced marches with heavy packs you could barely pick up, and unending target practice followed by brutal cram lessons on all the runnings of the Dauntless in case they needed to replace a mechanic or a pilot or a communication officer. Learning galactic trade, a language with no root on Earth in the slightest, and pushing and pushing and pushing. Only 1 in 20 got through the training. 10 of the 19 failures straight out broke. The other 9 just failed or left, unable to give enough and quitting before their minds or bodies snapped. They were the smart ones. There had been days Bjorn was convinced, utterly convinced, that he was about to snap in half, and he kept at it because just quitting felt wrong. But he didn't break. Oh, is the little man angry? Oh, how cute he thinks he can fight, the Horchka says, and there's a twitch of rage from Bjorn. He needs to calm down. He's no good to anyone if he's upset. Not one more step, he says, reaching into his jacket and pulling out his rifle. Or there will be bodies in the street. Oh, ho, that's one of those human weapons. You're not a threat at all, the Horchka says with a grin. So is it true, girly? Human men put out like their own spunk is gonna poison 'em dead? He's my bodyguard, too professional to fool around, Holly answers after a moment. Don't talk to the thugs, Miss Clatterhooves, Bjorn says once more in control of himself. He'll need to work on his temper. He almost lost focus for a moment. Back off. Or what? The Horchka demands as several more reveal themselves. A light caress of the trigger and the ground next to her feet detonates with a massive blast from his gun. Bjorn is the only one that doesn't jump. That is the last warning. Take it and leave. No, she says, and he sights down the barrel and gently squeezes the trigger. Everyone jumps again. Everyone but Bjorn. Will there be more corpses? He asks as the body hits the ground and several of the girls are looking frightened. More are looking angry. It's a fight. Fine. More corpses. That said, he trips Holly to get her low to the ground and opens up on the nearest gaggle of angry-looking ones. A burst of bullets slams into 2 of the 3 with the third, one with a knife, diving to the side. He follows her, and as she stands, he cuts her down. He swings his focus to the next largest group that had belligerents, and several are already backing off, which is taking the courage out of the more aggressive ones. "Stay down, Holly. I tripped you for a reason." "That thing is so loud." "I'll explain why later. Right now, just stay low and be ready to move when I say," Bjorn says as he turns to see more of the gang approaching. They pause and he looks back. Damn it, he's not going to get them out without stacking more bodies. He had been hoping to keep his hands cleaner than this. He hears the other group approach and he makes his decision. The gun barks out its toll of death and 2 more Horchka hit the ground. There's a pause, another shot, and another body hits the ground and the hairs on the back of his neck stand up straight. He turns before unloading a shot into a Horchka that had been racing up in total silence. As she falls, another is revealed to be right behind her. She's utterly frozen in fear. "You people redefine the term stupid, don't you?" He then shifts the rifle to his left hand and reaches into his jacket for his sidearm. He draws it and turns to press it against the forehead of a suddenly very still Horchka that had thought she was being clever. A pull of the trigger later and he looks from side to side incredulously. Both angles are now covered by either rifle or sidearm. Now, I may not be the most educated of men, but even I can understand that when your opponent has a deadly weapon and both the willingness and skill to use it, that perhaps fighting them is not an intelligent thing to do. There is dead silence in response to his words as all of them seem utterly baffled at what's going on. To his left, the first Horchka that had been running up groans. Most of the girls he'd been getting in their ludicrously oversized chests or clearly empty heads, he got in the gut. He tilts the gun down to face her, and she flinches. "No, no, please no," she wails out, and he turns the gun to the rest of the crowd. He has 10 remaining bullets in the sidearm, and from what he can see, the magazine on his rifle is still mostly full. Getting an extended magazine for it had been the smart thing to do. The frozen one is backing away. He makes no move to stop her and even nods to encourage some healthy cowardice. Then from above, an air van descends and slams down. Men pour out the sides and weapons are pointed every which way but at Bjorn and Holly. Bjorn flicks on his safeties and holsters his weapons. "Come on, girl, we're getting a ride," he says, helping Holly up and pulling the shocked young Carib into the air van. "Report," the officer in charge demands. Walking with the VIP, the street suddenly emptied and a gang showed up to accost us. They ignored multiple warnings and attempted to attack. "I killed 7 and wounded 1 before you arrived." "Good man," the officer encourages him as another 2 vehicles descend from above. "We're going back to the Dauntless. We have some things we need to talk about and no doubt you'd like some more ammo." Yeah, ammo would be good. Even if he only used a little. "You all right, soldier?" "I'm fine, just don't like killing, especially when it's just a bunch of stupid punks who choke on their pride," Bjorn says as he leans back in his seat to chew on things. "I'm sorry," Holly mutters, and he cracks his eyes open to look at her. "For what? If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have this job, and it's not your fault either. Not even mine, really. It's on them. I told them to back off time after time and they wouldn't get the hint. I gave them every chance to back away and run and they kept coming. It's not on you. You're just caught in it. Not on me. I had a job to do. It's on them. They started it, they kept it going, and they wouldn't turn away." "That's exactly right, Sergeant. Glad to hear you've got your head on straight." "Needs to be straight, sir. My aim would be off otherwise." Bjorn jokes and there are a few chuckles. In moments, the bodies are reported and the Horchka with a gut shot is being looked over by a medic as they all make their way back to the Dauntless. "I just wanted to go on a walk. Why did this happen?" At the moment, I'm leaning to it being because a gang of fucking idiots saw me. It's kind of a local problem in that we can't get around the fact that the human martial strength is mostly in men, and to other races that's a sign of weakness. Great for undercover protection, But hidden protection isn't exactly something you can use to scare off the stupid and selfish, Bjorn remarks as he cracks his neck. The bit of adrenaline that had run through him was crashing somewhat, and he just wanted some quiet. Thankfully, the ride is completely uneventful, and soon enough, Bjorn is waiting outside the psychiatrist's office that Holly is in. Poor girl has enough with the knife-topped nightmares that the doctor is helping her with, but getting that close to gang violence for a civilian? Not a good time. Just a kid. Just someone's poor kid that was ripped out of her home and woke up 15 years later in the body of a monster with the memories sneaking back in. Bjorn mutters, I know I could not have prevented this. Short of locking her in a box, there's no way to keep her from everything, no matter how much I may want to. That's an excellent attitude for a bodyguard, a nearby voice states, and Bjorn starts a bit before looking to his right. It's a kid, maybe 15 years old at most, and no. It took him a moment, but he recognizes Herbert Jameson now. Don't do that again. Do what? Do not sneak up on me. I do not appreciate it. Bjorn clarifies. Rumor was the man had made a transfer into intelligence after he was de-aged, and wasn't that something to think about? I didn't sneak up at all. I just didn't stomp up like I was trying to break the deck plating. Herbert remarks, and Bjorn snorts. Fair enough, he says, sitting up straighter. Is there something you want, or are you just shooting the breeze? It was just a gang of dumb kids, somewhat smarter than average with a good grasp of ambush and intimidation tactics, but just a gang in the end. Herbert tells him, and Bjorn nods. A gang with the bad luck to run into a fully armed and trained soldier. Bjorn notes. Yes, I've also come to tell you that we're thinking about moving Holly and the other formerly nailed women to another world for their protection. Best get them some distance. That puts us pretty far away from backup and with only a few proper bolt holes. Bjorn protests. We know. That's why we're thinking of putting up a recruiting outpost on the world of Zalwar. It's a city planet like Centris, but in a different style to the Centris spires. Interesting. How far is it from major backup if everything goes completely fewbar? A day and a half from Centris along the major axiom lanes. Right next door almost. In a skirmish, that's an eternity. In a siege, that's an instant. Bjorn considers. What's the terrain like? Is there a specific race that holds a clear demographic majority? Mostly Metok, Gob, Kob, and Tret, although there's a healthy mix of many other populations, particularly among the Carib, Snikt, Horchka, Nagasha, and Sonir, such as our nail victims. The terrain is an enormous number of arcologies, self-contained cities on an otherwise very cold and dry planet. If you think of it like a self-reliant space station on the ground, then you're not far off. Or the Dauntless, with the engines replaced for more hydroponics and production. Less crowded, but you've ballparked it. Very much a close-range kind of place. Things would get down to knife range in a hurry in a place like that. Less than you think from a lot of the arcology designs, but you're thinking properly for it. It's an ecumenopolis made up of arcoplexes. All right, you're just making up words now. An arcology is a self-contained city in one massive building. An arcoplex is a whole city of city buildings. A ecumenopolis is a city planet, like Centris here. Centris uses an open spire system to take advantage of its natural atmosphere. Zalwar doesn't have a very welcoming surface and is only being populated because of its sheer convenience right on the biggest axiom lane in the galaxy. It is a major trade hub and sees nearly 10 times the population of Earth come and go every day. They couldn't terraform it first? Bjorn asks, as he pushes aside the sheer absurdity of billions of people coming and going at once. I looked it up. The whole planet was locked up in red tape as no one could agree on what to terraform it into, and the would-be colonists got impatient. Technically, the debate on what to turn the planet into is undecided and ongoing, but no one's actually made any motions in thousands of years. No one wants to, There's too great a population now, and no matter what's decided, it will piss someone off. The oldest arcologies are refurbished ships that the colonists were stuck waiting in orbit on. Okay then. Local wildlife are numerous breeds of Arctic bird, large aggressive tundra worms that devour anything they can catch, and numerous herd animals that survive off the lichen and moss. Are you sending me to Arrakis, but cold and populated? Bjorn demands. Of course not. The worms aren't that big, and its value is in its location, not in anything it produces naturally, Herbert says, and Bjorn chuckles. Oh my God, man. You haven't heard the best part yet. And what would that be? The cover. You see, as much as we would like it to be otherwise, most of the Undaunted are going to be aliens for sheer virtue of humanity being disgustingly outnumbered in every way, shape, and form, which means we need to start recruiting and training. So we're opening up offices here on Centris and on Zalwar. I'm going to be a trainer? That's your cover, same with the other girls and their guards. You'll be living in the recruit and training centers and bringing in new blood into the Undaunted. We're going to have to change our training routines then. As races go, humans are stamina monsters. Our usual drills would flat out kill most of them. Lord forbid the drill instructors get a body count to match their attitude. Herbert remarks, and Bjorn snorts in amusement. How long? Sometime in the next 2 weeks.